Within our souls, we all possess a dream which lay dormant until intrigue strikes its match and sets the torch we carry ablaze, leading us down the path of the unknown towards our dreams. As coaches who are former high-performance athletes, our personal experiences have shown us that a coach, parent, or even a fellow athlete have the potential to either illuminate or extinguish the dreams of young athletes. Nothing is lost from the candle which lights another. We are here to share our stories and our passion to illuminate the champion within, empowering coaches, parents, and athletes to keep the flame of their dreams burning eternally. You are listening to Illuminating Champions with Michal and Ashley Anton.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Illuminating Champions. For our first-time listeners, my name is Ashley, and I'm here today with my husband, Michal.
Hey, how are you guys?
Also with us is a very special guest. He is our personal coach. His name is Mark Patterson, better known as the brand artist. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Hello. Nice to see you again.
So Mark's going to be helping us out by asking us some very important questions. And today's episode is going to be all about illuminating parents in the way that they have total control over setting the bar for a positive environment for their child athlete, whether that's in their sport, in their home, and just carrying this positivity throughout their life by having open communication with their child, with their coaches, with their teachers, whatever setting their personal life is in, the parent has control over positivity. So we're going to begin with Mark asking us some important questions to help parents better understand the subject. And we're going to be providing you with our personal experiences on this topic just to help guide you along and provide some insight from the minds of coaches who work with children and parents on a daily basis, as everything works best when we work together to uplift the child. So go ahead, Mark.
Well, thank you. Knowing how you coach, I am a big fan of your process. The idea that you believe that coaching is a triangle with the child at the top as the athlete, coaches at the bottom, along with the parents. So the role of the parents in this process was an eye-opener to me. So tell me a little bit about the idea of how should a parent approach their role in that program. And I know all parents want the best for their kids, but sometimes our pride and our ego gets in the way. So how would you advise parents to do their role better?
It's true. The parent, of course, wants the very best outcome for their child, and they want to see their child shining. So you love your child. So you put your whole heart into your child's experience, and you just have to remember that it is your child's experience. So you're there to uplift them and work together with your coach. As you said, you can picture it in your mind as a triangle. We call it a trinity. So we have coach, parent on the bottom, and they're uplifting the child to peak in their performance. So it's very important for the parent to help their child discover their dreams. It's very important for the parent to notice what their child is interested. Michal always says, and it's something I love that he says, that a parent's biggest talent is
to find the child natural talent, their own child natural talent.
Right.
So that's very important because look, we talk about sports and athletics. Michael Phelps, his parents put the guy in swimming. If they put him in basketball, we will never maybe know who Michael Phelps was. But they figure out that this little boy knows how to swim and is good at swimming, and they follow that and then develop that dream of his to where Michael Phelps is today, the most awarded Olympic athlete in the history of Olympics. But behind him was his parents in the beginning, that before they even coaches, they brought him to the swimming pool, right?
That's really interesting because my sport was baseball, so I just wanted to play baseball because everybody played baseball. But I would think that with gymnastics, a small child doesn't just instantly say, I want to do gymnastics. That probably at least 50% or more of the time, the parent suggests, that is an option for the child. Am I correct in that?
It is true. Sometimes it depends what age they start also. And gymnastics uniquely starts very young. Mm-hmm. Sometimes gyms have children that just begin walking. So like 18 months old, and they're doing a mommy and me style class. So yeah, that would be the
Yeah,
parent
That's what I mean. At
choosing
18 months, is
Yes.
going to say mama, dad, gymnastics.
Right, that's
the
it.
The parent is going to have to say, this kid has the body, has the type, has the desire, and maybe
Look,
I
I'm
love
gonna be honest.
gymnastics, so let's do it.
I'm
Right.
going to be honest with you. Sometimes that talent, the natural talent, is very visible.
Yes.
Understand? And then it's not easy, but it's easier for a parent to see. Oh, like for example, when Simone Biles was a baby, I don't know her then, but I'm assuming just what I'm saying. Simone Biles today in a modern time, she was a very bouncy little girl. Like I'm 100% sure that she walked pretty fast and she was very energetic from the beginning. She jumped and rolled, and like it's pretty easy to notice that she has some inclination towards the sport.
Mhm.
And then when I said is the parent biggest talent to see the child talent, is that the parent notice that and they bring them to a place where the professionals can develop that talent.
Right.
You see your child, you have a little boy and you see him wrestling everybody all the time, every day, obviously, and he does it pretty accurate, right? Out of natural just movement, then you should inclinate them towards that sport. You see a little girl or little boy playing soccer outside with a ball, and same thing. They play pretty accurate without any type of soccer lessons. And you may want to put them into soccer because, if they take it serious, they may have a professional career.
I see.
No.
So
But
the
at the
parent the parent naturally notices what their child has a love for or an interest in. Same with music or whatever,
Yes, if
like
pay
you said, or
attention to the
swimming.
child,
So
I 100% you can see it. And doesn't have to be just like what you said. It's not just athletic. It can be artistic. The child likes to play piano or violin, or they like to
Right.
sing, or like as a parent, you can develop that. Doesn't have to be like the most perfect, because we all have a quality from God
I get it.
that maybe sometimes in the whole life we never use it because we don't really
You didn't
know
pay
it is
attention.
there. Yeah.
Right.
But we have qualities enough to be good in whatever we put in our mind to do. And if we have discipline and we work hard and we follow that dream or that goal,
Right.
so to speak, we can achieve it.
Well, I have a real interesting thing. I have a son who, when he was very little, he would take things apart. And I used to get very angry. He was breaking things. He'd take a clock apart. And I would yell at him,
I
and
do the same
I'd
thing.
come back in the room, and he had it all back together and it was working. Yeah, he was like 4 or 5. Well, he went to school to be an industrial designer. He likes to make things work. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I guess the advice there is a parent just needs to be observant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they have to realize that maybe their child is going to enjoy something which is totally opposite of what you enjoyed as a child, as a parent. You can't, we could never expect that
Right.
our child would automatically love gymnastics. Maybe they're not going to like it. Yeah. Yes, of course, the tendency is that they would be genetically, but that's not always the case. So it's important to look at your child ego free and make sure that what you select for your child to do or help your child discover that they love to do is really what they love to do, not just always what you love to do or you love for them to do because you have aspirations of
So it's
what they
observing
need.
and guiding and nurturing rather than pushing
Yes.
and shoving into a
Listen,
niche.
I have to say, you can't tell parents really how to parent.
Of course
But
not.
It's a fine line with everything that we talk now, because you see, as a parent, in the end of the day, you can take your child and say, look, I want my daughter, we talk about gymnastics, to have a career in gymnastics. You take her to a gym, right? And the coach tells you, you know what? She has potential. Then yes, you can work on that. But if the coach tells you, try a different sport, she's not built naturally, she doesn't have the natural abilities to do gymnastics at the Olympic level, you should take that too respectfully, understand? And humbly, and be like, okay, what would you suggest? Or take those suggestions and maybe you put her in dance, you put her in cheerleading, you put her in, what's that sport? Softball?
Softball?
I don't know, lacrosse. Lacrosse is big in
Lacrosse
America,
is big,
right?
yeah.
Lacrosse or soccer for girls in America is very, very big, right? you give her a different opportunity. You have to try. If she doesn't match the sport you like, because sometimes works too. Like, are there Olympic athletes that got into the sport because the mother or the father liked that sport and put them in? And then in the beginning they didn't like it, but then they was perseverant into it, and the parents bring them back to practice, and at one point they
learned
did it.
Yeah.
Look, I have an example that's not with sport, academic. My little sister, I think she wants to go to school for medical. She was very smart, the smartest in the family. I have to give it to her. And she wants to go to school to medical, but she couldn't, and she ended up going to the engineer. Right now, she's I think the head teacher in the university in my country for engineer. She does construction material development, something like that, like scientifically. And when I talked to her years ago, and she told me at one point, because she didn't like math, she's like, "Oh, I hated it in the beginning, but I want to go to a university, and I couldn't go. And the only one that I could get in, I think was financially, was this one. And I got in, and I just did it in the beginning because it was like, okay, I have to get my academics, right? But then she fell in love with what she did, and now she's so good at it, and she was older. It's the same thing with the kids. Like, in the beginning, they maybe not going to like it, but then if you guide them correctly and they have that ability, they're going to make it,
Well, I think also with your sister, she liked the overall subject, but she didn't like the part that really challenged her. And that goes back to what we talked about in the last episode, that's also very helpful for the parent to try to teach the child to learn to love what challenges them, because it opens their mind, it opens the door to more opportunity, and it enables them to continue doing the overall of what they love rather than fixating on the part that is most challenging to them. Go ahead.
And sometimes also listen to the child, because you have, for example, you have a very good story in America about parent listening to the child and giving the child the opportunity. Is Ali Reisman. Understand? Olympic champion in 2012, Olympic champion medalist with the U.S. team in 2016 in Brazil, right? The leader of that team, the captain. That girl was like 5 years old watching Olympics on a tape home and tell her mother, you know what? I'm going to do this. Guess what? Her mother looked at her and was like, no. You are 5 years old. I don't know you're going to go to the Olympics. But did brought her to a gym. Understand? Did stay perseverant with her dream. Help her every single time she needs something. Brought her to practice, brought her to competition. And then one day she became the best in the world. She became the Ali Reisman that everybody knows her today, right? You go in every gym and ask a little girl, do you know Ali Reisman? Yes.
Yeah.
From USA all the way to China. I understand.
Well, so your name of your program, Illuminating Champions, it's a very interesting name, because illuminating has to start on all 3 points of that triangle. The however that child enters the sport, either by their own desire, spark, or the parents, that child gets in, and they have to have motivation. And so if they just go through the motions, they'll never be a champion. Something has to happen that light that spark where they say, I love this. I think this is great. So in between that roller coaster of a child thinking, I'm not happy today, I don't want to do anything, I love this, I want to be a champion, I'll never be anything. So I think that's a great thing to realize, that parents have to be aware and watch for that, and their world, to nurture kids through discovering their motivation and discovering the concept of determination. Most children don't know how to push themselves. So jump into that a little bit.
Right. So how you described it as a roller coaster is actually very, very accurate. Especially, and the roller coaster waves only get bigger once the child does the sport competitively, because it becomes more important in their heart and soul. So their emotions are widened. And it is the parents' job to help keep them on the tracks the whole time and not let them slide off and develop other types of emotions that are destructive to them. So that aspect is very, very important. And it is part of that trinity that you have to be communicating with your child to know how they feel. You have to be communicating with their coach to see how the child is while they're doing practice. And you need to be listening to the coach's most honest opinion about everything that pertains to your child.
Yes.
Because that is how you're going to help them the most. You are going to illuminate them. You're going to know what challenges them, because sometimes it's not visible to you. Whether it's like you drop them off at practice and pick them up and you didn't see it, or maybe you just don't always notice it because you're not trained to see it, and the coach can see it. Because kids are also very good at trying to hide. that they're uncomfortable. They, especially if it's a sport like gymnastics, like Mihail always says, it's a sport with a large ego. It's an individual sport that you're aiming close to perfection. So you never really want to show that you're struggling with anything innately. That tends to be the innate personality.
And once again, it's a very, I told you before in the past episodes that gymnast athletes are very big ego athletes. They have a huge ego, because despite other sports, like you have sports that are very hard, like for example, boxing, judo, and Olympics, wrestling, right? They are very physical combat sports, right? But you have someone who direct challenge you. Understand? Like in boxing, if you go to the gym and you have someone like you're tired today and you don't want to practice and you have to do a sparring and the guy punch you a little bit in the face, you wake up, you are like, okay, I'm not going to let this guy hit me. But in gymnastics, you can go in the gym and sit on the mat and watch your teammates. Nothing happens. Understand? You're going to realize 2 months after at the national championships, the outcome of you not pushing yourself, not working, not giving it all, understand? You're not going to see it right away. And then for you to work hard, for you to come in the gym and, what's the word, grind?
Grind, yeah. You
Grind
can say that.
every day. You have to self-motivate yourself. Like you have to be like, you know what? I want to be the best. I want to be a champion. That's why I told you before, athletes that do gymnastics, they have the tendency to turn in life as adults, very driven adults. Understand? People that don't give up easy. It's very hard to make someone who competes gymnastics. It's very hard as an adult to break them down easy, you know, just because they lost a job or they didn't pass a test, or like they're going to go back, they're going to try again, and they're going to try again, and they're going to try again. Why? Because they learn that in gymnastics. Like when that little girl or that little boy goes on high bar, or the girl goes on beam and does that flip 1,000 times and fails 1,000 times and stand up 1,000 times, go back on the beam, and 1,001 times she makes the flip land. That's self-motivation. She is the one that makes herself want to do it.
Yeah.
Well, like the sports that I told you before, you have your teammate that in training can challenge you directly just by punching you in the face, even though they don't punch you hard. Or in wrestling, the guy picks you up and tosses you. Like, yeah, you're going to wake up very fast and your ego's going to kick in, because you're going to be like, I'm not going to let this guy like mold me right on the ground. Then I'm going to do something. Where in gymnastics, it's very unviolent sport.
Well, it's not contact.
Yeah, it's not contact. It's just you clap at your teammate, you clap at your competitor.
It's a friendly competition.
It's a very friendly competition. You go to the world championships and the Russian guy claps to the Chinese guy. It's like, hey, good job. Хорошо. And then he goes up and want to beat the guy, right? Where in boxing, you see them, they sit on the corner of the ring and they look at each other like ready to like strangle each other, you know what I mean? Because you get into it, it's different ego.
Yeah, this is like a whole nother topic in itself that we're going to go into about actually how good individual sports are for building sportsmanship and like jealousy-free environments. And we'll have a full episode on this.
But you really got into there something that I think you told me before, that a good coach does way more than just teach the athlete the moves, the tricks, the physicality of it. You're watching them when they perform, but you're watching them when they walk around. What is their attitude? What is their mindset? Are they out of sorts today? Do they not have enough confidence? And so you and the parent coach, let's call them the parent coach,
right,
needs to be aware that they're also they should be nurturing the entire person, the spirit, because life is it's a lifelong journey of ups and downs, and you have to learn to take defeat and victory. So tell me a
Yeah,
little bit
but the
about that.
parents first, my advice is like the parents have to allow the kids to fail.
Mhm.
Teach them to have big goals. Like I told you before, be the best. Don't be your best. Be the best. Tell your child, you know what? You want to do piano, be the best at playing piano. You want to do soccer, be the best at playing soccer. If they fail at it, just give them the correct advice and the adjustments they have to make in order for them to still try to achieve that goal.
Right.
Understand? But the problem is like you see, like why even adults, why they are afraid of having goals? Why they are afraid of competing? What makes you afraid to go? For example, we talk about boxing. If I put you now in a boxing match and I put you to face someone else, why are you going to be afraid to do that? Because you're afraid to lose, right? It's going to be painful. That fear of losing makes us not even try things in life. And not just the kids, the adults. And then keeps us for trying, keeps us for evolving because they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to do this because I'm going to fail at it." Then when the parent allowed the child at a young age to have those big goals, want to be a state champion, and you didn't become a state champion, give them the tools to learn from that. Because that's why it's that saying, before you become a champion, you have to learn first how to lose. Understand? Give them the tools to go back, make the adjustments, and try again.
Right.
You know, and gymnastics and sports in general for young kids, it's the safer environment they're going to have in life to learn,
Right.
to strive for big things, to be the best and fail. Understand? Because they can go back and try again, and it's not defining their life. Understand? You can try to be an Olympic champion in gymnastics and you didn't make it, but you did learn to have discipline. You did learn to work hard. You did learn to go through fear and how to control fear, right? Because everybody is afraid of things. You're not afraid, you're crazy. Like it.
Yeah.
Fear is
It's
a protective. Fear is a protective feeling. Understand? It's to keep us from not doing crazy stuff. Then you learn how to control that fear, right? You learn how to push yourself through hard moments when you do like 100, push-ups, and you feel like, cannot do one more. I'm at 99, and you push through it, right? All those things come with you in life later when you go and realize, and now you have to go get a job. Now you have to finish your college first, then go get a job. Now you have to work hard, right? Now you have to provide to your family. Now you are a person that has the strength, physical and mental strength, to fight life. Life is not easy, let's put it that way.
I love that phrase you said, that they have to learn how to lose. There's not one champion out there that won everything they ever did. So learning how to lose, pick yourself up, and be determined to be better the next time, that's a great life skill.
Yes, and I think also the way I like to think about what he said is another good phrase, that if you shoot for the moon, if you miss, you'll still land amongst the stars. That's something that we say to our students sometimes, and it's pointing out exactly all of the aspects that he just spoke about. If you don't get your big goal, I don't even like to think of it as you failed. You missed it, right? Let's not say you failed. You missed. You still got this, and this. You still develop perseverance, strength, determination, overcoming, all of the things that he just pointed out. You're still going to learn those things, which can carry you all the way through life.
And build a strong adult, understand? Like, look, I came to America, and I'm going to tell you a story now. I came to America in like a year or 2 years after I was here, I lost everything, right? I'm going to just leave it at this for today, right? At one point, I slept in her car. Like, I was homeless. I didn't have a job. I didn't have the right to work in America legally. I couldn't work. I didn't have a driver license. At one point, I ran out of all the money that I had, which was like, I came in America poor anyways from the beginning, right? And now I'm in a situation where I have nothing. I called the American government to deport me back home. They said, no, you came in the country legally. Then I was like, okay, what am I doing? And I got to that point where I was like, okay, what is life? Why, right? You start putting question. Your mind start playing games with you. It doesn't matter how strong you are. When life brings you to your knees, everybody has a breaking moment, understand? And that breaking moment, my competitive attitude from gymnastics is what kept me here.
Mhm.
The fact that
That determination.
I won, yes, I won in my life. I was the best, understand? But I lost.
Mhm.
And I lost more than I win, to be honest. No, I was in a situation where people shake my hand and open the door for me when they see me. And then the same people didn't even knew who I am just because I was not a champion anymore. Understand? Like I have those experiences. When I was at the top, I was at the bottom. And I knew to work hard. I had the discipline to not give up, right? Remember I told you in the first episode when you asked me about how I got into gymnastics, I was not an athlete. I was the last kid in the gym. Everybody make fun of me. Understand?
Right.
And then I become a champion. Then going through all that process and that moment in life, that give me the strength to look around and find the right decisions. Understand?
You know, you sparked a thought in me because I forgot that you said that you were so sickly and weak and skinny that the
anymore.
other kids in the gym would call you the skeleton
Yes.
boy. And so
X-ray,
so
X-ray, skeleton boy,
and
cadaver.
so gymnastics did so much for you. So
Yes.
much for you. Made you stronger, made you better, made you able to take those insults and bullying. And now I think that's out for my outside observation. I think that's what makes you guys great coaches, because you both had issues where you know what it feels like to be
Yes.
on the bottom and to be made fun of. So it's a very important thing part for a parent to understand what's part of this journey.
But you know, the parent is important. Is like parents have very important part, the most important part, not
Yes.
the most important. Because you see, for me, you said that all those things happened to me, but I overcome them when I was a child, right? You know why? Because when I go home, the truth is this: if I go home and my father saw me sad and asked my mother, like, what happened? I'll be like, oh, look, I come in last place at this competition and my teammates make fun of me. I come in last place because I'm a cadaver or I'm a skeleton. I have no muscles. I also like skinny, right? And my father will look at me and say, hey, son, go back in the gym and do conditioning. When the coach gives you that conditioning training and you have to lift weights and do ropes, do 10 more than everybody else. And you go on there, you're going to get strong. And I took that advice. And then I become national champion. Then I became the guy with the big arms. You know what I mean?
There you go. That's great.
I become from the boy that girls will not look at him. I become the guy that can walk around and I had 10 packs and I look like a photo model.
Yeah.
But that came through hard work. That didn't came to my father like sitting down and look at me and say, son, you know, life is not fair with you. My parents never told me that. They give me, although remember I told you, my mother has 4 grades, my father 8. But they teach me that discipline. They teach me that life is not going to be easy, because let's be honest. Nobody's going to really help you in life, right? It's very hard when you find a person that's gonna give you everything in life. And if you don't come from a very, very, very elite family with a lot of money and a lot of political influence and social influence, your child has to work hard at one point and they have to fight for themselves in life. They have to fight for a job, right? To make a living. And you give them those tools through sport. You teach them to be resilient. Resilient is the word, yes, that I was looking for.
So that's a good thing for parents to understand, that because everybody gets sidetracked. We're so busy doing this and this, take the kid to class, bring the kid home. But the idea of thinking that the mood of the child when they go and when they come back, are we building their self-esteem? Are we listening to what they're doing in life? Are we making them stronger individuals? So back to the role of a parent again, since that's our topic here, that parents set the bar. What we're in a way doing, we're reminding parents of their role.
Right. Because the parent is there to do exactly what you just said. And the parent's permanent. The coach is temporary.
Yes.
So they need to make sure that as a permanent figure in their child's life, they are the one that the child can look to in every single circumstance, whether they're happy or at their lowest emotional point, and go to them comfortably and relay how they're feeling. And the parent is able to constructively help them. part of why your parents were able to help you is because they listened to your medical doctor,
Yeah.
right? And your coach.
Yeah.
And then in their own way, they were able to take the advice and relay it in a way to you that you would understand.
Yes.
And
And I'm going to correct you here a little bit. And also the society
Right.
was that way. Like, although like I grew up, like I said before, in a socialist communist country, I grew up in a dictatorial government. It's funny, but they was promoting hard work.
Mhm.
Understand? Was like a virtue, so to speak. Like if you work hard, if you had a job, you work in construction, even though you didn't make money, was a virtue for you to work. They will say, like, was a saying that a job is a gold bracelet. You know what I mean? Like working in a job is a gold bracelet. Doesn't matter the level of the job. It was so valuable, you know. And then
Right.
that was in the society at the time too. Was the whole society was built around working hard, because obviously the
see.
country was coming out of the World War II, and Russia occupied my country, I think, from 44 to 58. That's 14 years. When the Russia left in 58, they took everything out of my country. My country was left with, like, if you go in someone's house and you take the furniture and the windows, you know what I mean? Like, it's nothing, right? And then for
Yeah.
them to rebuild that country, that was one thing they used very good, the socialist communists in my country, was teaching people to want to work hard.
We didn't talk about that, but there is a culture shift in America. The young people are, there's a different mindset, a different attitude about work and play. And, so it's important for our parents to help project that worldview and an attitude to prepare their kids for the future that's coming. So, I know in the process you told me that sometimes you see greatness in a child before the child sees it, or the parents, and you might advance them to another level, and they have to get to work harder and do this, or the reverse, where a child wants so much to be better, but they're not quite ready yet. So maybe you have to pull them back and do things. And so how do you tell a parent that?
Honest.
So the parent can play their role in that.
You asked me one time about coaches, and I said the coach has to coach without ego and be honest, right? My ego, and I have a big ego, like you can see it.
No
You know,
kidding.
all this gold, this is my ego. Understand? You see, that's another thing. My faith is humble, is wood. Understand? I don't wear a cross that's gold, because I don't believe it. Like, I believe that my faith is something very humble. Understand?
Mm-hmm.
My ego is on my finger or my hand. That's my ego. I have a big ego, but when I coach, I have no ego. I look at my athlete ego. What is their ego? What they want to achieve? How big is their ego? How can I guide that ego positively? Teach them to have ego and humbleness at the same time. Understand? They go together. It's yin and yang in everything in life, right? Understand? And the parent has to, like, you have to tell the parent honestly, and the parent has to be also taking the advices from the coaches without the ego. They cannot parent the athlete child with ego either. Understand? They have to put their ego aside, because otherwise the only one that has to lose in this trinity that you guys talk about before Ashley talk about it is the child, if that doesn't work together. If the relation between the coach and the parent is not a good relation, the one that lose is the child. Understand? For me, in that moment, like, if I feel as a coach, and it's a secret, I let the parents know. Most of the coaches, I believe, do the same way if they are honest. If the relation doesn't work, I'm the first one to ask the parents to find another place. I tell them honestly, I say, look, find a place where you're happy, and for real, I wish you all the best, because I'm not going to keep you in my gym just for money. I'm not business oriented, like I said.
Yeah, you're not greedy.
I'm not. I don't actually. I have goal, but no, I don't care about money that much. Understand? Like, I care about how good I can make that athlete. I coach gymnastics because I love to see a child grow up to something special. Understand? That they didn't believe they can be. That's the biggest ego I can have, I guess. Right? That's
It's your biggest joy.
Yes. It's like, give me a diamond. You know what I mean? Like, someone likes to buy a nice car for me. I want to see that child going from struggling to the Olympic champion.
It's their most valuable.
Yes, it's the most valuable thing for me.
Mhm.
Then if that doesn't work, I will tell the parent, like, look, you go to a place where they're going to take your money and do what you want. I'm going to give you a story now on this one. And it's a real story. I'm not going to give names because I don't want people to feel bad about it. But a while ago, she convinced me to go back to coaching, and we just opened the gym. And it was my first generation. Like, I was coaching. I have like 2 girls in the gym. I have a gym the size of the floor. That was all I have. And I have this little girl, very good. She was, I think, 5 at the time. And she completed level 3. We have to wait for her to turn 6. And she was very good. And I told the parent, like, she is talented. She is good. She has to work hard. She has to improve herself, but she has the potential. And she had the work ethic. Naturally, that kid likes to work very hard. And she was very, how to say, like, if you talk to her, she has very good manners. Like, she will listen to you. She wants to do good. But that was naturally for her, right? She completed level 3. Then we moved her to level 4 the next year. She was 7. She was, I think, one of the youngest. She was the youngest in the whole state when she completed level 4 in Connecticut at the time. And she was training. It's a program called TAPS. How you say it in English, the whole name?
Talent Opportunity Programs.
Talent Opportunity Programs, right? And that program at the time was for, I think, 7 to 10, right? And it was based more in conditioning training, like climbing the rope, doing legs left, doing VRs, doing press handstand, this called, right? And she will train extra for that program. And at one point, her parents divorced. And then the father was living away. The mother was living with her new boyfriend, partner. Right? And the girl started being funny in the gym. And at one point, I told the mother, I was like, listen, we have to take off her plate this year, TAPS. We're not going to do TAPS. Let her do just level 4 because she is not like, she comes in the gym, she cries. Now she was not just coming in the gym and she didn't want to do her TAPS training, which was pretty hard for a 7 years old. And I explained it. She didn't want to do her regular training, understand? And she will not pay attention to her regular tricks. Like she will bail in the middle of a round of handspring. But not because she just didn't.
She was just distracted.
She was distracted. And I explained to her, it's a big change. Once all of a sudden now you guys divorced and all that is affecting her. And the mother said, no, it's not. You have to train her. You have to. You have to take her to the Olympics. You can do that. I said, I know I can do that, but we can't do it this way, you know? And I tried to reason it with the mother. Right? She took the girl out of my gym because she didn't like the idea. And she did it. She moved to another gym. Right? And that girl never got anywhere.
Not anywhere close to her full potential.
Like 7 years after, she maybe completed, I don't know, level 5 or 6.
It was sad.
And once again, that was very sad to watch because as a coach, parents has to understand, I'm not in power of your child. No coach has power over your child. You have it. Then if you cannot work with the coach, most of the time, that's why I said the one that suffered is the child. It's not I feel bad, but the one that never achieved what she could achieve is that child. And that I see it many times, not one time. That's why I give, that's one story.
Right.
Well, that's the actual title of this episode, how parents set the bar for the positive environment. Yeah. It's not just mentally. If the parents' life is struggling, if they lose their job, or like you said, they get divorced, that energy is transferred to the child, and it affects everybody. So it's just something for everybody to be aware of, that we have to work together as that pyramid of coaching and nurturing.
Right. And, a parent has to notice when their child is overwhelmed and why they're overwhelmed. And sometimes it's really hard to see. And that's why it's so important that coaches and parents work together, because maybe we wouldn't know of a home situation that could be bothering the child, that in their subconscious mind they're thinking about when they come in the gym, and that's causing them to not be fully focused. So it helps if a parent communicates big changes at home, or if the child came home feeling upset about anything, even if it happened at school. Sometimes they carry it into practice even though they shouldn't,
or many times,
just because they're learning how to handle all of their emotions. Also, it works the opposite way. Sometimes a child is going to go home and be bubbly and happy because she remembers what she was excited about accomplishing that day. But while at practice, she was struggling about something, or she had like a not good interaction with another child there, or, she wasn't paying attention at one point for whatever reason. The coach has to communicate that with the parent, or if the coach is picking up on if the child is being nervous or having a fear, the parent doesn't always see that right away, but we see it as long as we're paying attention. And it's not something that the child always discusses when they get home. Some children do and some children don't. So it's important for the coach to notice that and then go about making their professional decisions, whether it's, speeding somebody up or slowing somebody down. It always has to be to benefit the child, and it needs to be relayed to the parent as to why you made that decision. And of course, if it's the latter of the two where someone needs to be slowed down a little bit for their well-being, like in the situation of the athlete he was talking about, she was overwhelmed at home. Even though she wasn't verbalizing it, we could see how all of a sudden her pace of training changed and her mood changed during training. So, of course, we want the child to be happy and we want her to also be safe. So we said, you know what, she doesn't need any additional type of like physical or mental stress right now. So let's slow down a little bit. We're still going to aim for that path, but we're just going to alter how we get there. And then it is the parent who has to choose to be receptive of the coach's professional decision. And it's always best to have an in-depth conversation about it if you don't understand why the coach made a decision, a very honest one. Look at the child, outside of the box, outside of the ego, and try to really see how your child is interpreting things, how they're feeling, what they're overwhelmed about, because that makes a huge difference. If a child comes home overwhelmed because they just happen to develop a fear that day of a skill, that's a temporary overwhelmment that can be surpassed with communication and uplifting and support and the correct tools that are developed throughout communicating between coach and athlete, and parent and athlete. If it's something different where they're overwhelmed because the style of the environment is not fitting them, like they need a different training group or the level of intensity is too high, the parent has to try to notice that, and so does the coach, and then you alter the path. If it's just, as Michal said in the last episode, not the right flavor of ice cream for them, then that's another conversation where maybe the relationship and the training environment doesn't work to the point where you find something different that works better.
For example, we talk about gymnastics. It's like they have, at a very young age, when they start TAPS now, 6 or 7?
Still 7.
7 years old, they have the program that I just talked about, TAPS, right? Talent Opportunity Development Program, right? Then at 11, they start HOPS. HOPS, it's a pre-elite qualification program. Like at 11 years old, you can start competing at the national level to make it to the elite level. That's when you start getting noticed by the national junior teams and the national senior team, like the coaches start looking at you, right? Those are at a very young age. Think about the intensity of the training, right? It's a high intensity training because and it's not just intensity, how to explain? People think intensity is something like it's the repetition has to be a little bit higher. The expectation of the executions, it's much higher. Like whatever the coach expects from the athlete to get it's what? Heightened. Yes. That's the word, heightened. Yeah. Then obviously some kids, they can be talented physically, but they don't have that mentality psychologically. Then if you put someone in a program like that, you're going to break them. But if you take them a little bit slower, you can build them up to it without breaking them. They may be going to take just a little bit longer. Then the parent has to understand those things, because when I said coaching with ego and parenting with ego, parents should take the ego out of it, because they cannot want to have especially with gymnastics. You want to have your daughter or your son in a level just because of the status of the level. Everybody in gymnastics, in girls gymnastics, they all want to compete. Now it's called the Women Development Program, was called Junior Olympic before. Right? Level 7, level 8, level 9, level 10. That's all they want, right? Because the status of it, I compete level 10. Look, you can compete Excel Platinum and have the same skills like in level 10 or no, Excel Diamond, and have the same skills like in level 10, but you don't have that intensity. Understand? And then from there, maybe you're going to be able to switch back into women development program and actually
Right.
compete elite gymnastics.
Right.
But I put you from the beginning to go through level 7, 8, 9, 10, and you don't have the personality, you are going to hate it at one point, to break. Because it's like when I said, Ashley, remember the thing with the ice cream. I give you the wrong flavor of ice cream. I give you the flavor that you hate the most. You're not going to like the whole ice cream. It's the same thing with those things. You have to give them the right flavor.
Well, he said something to me the other day that stuck with me, and it had to do with the parent setting the tempo, because
Yes.
the child is an adolescent, so they do need the parent's guidance in their path towards their dreams. So he said, you set the tempo, but you need to hear the music.
Yes.
So the parent is the guide, and they are setting the expectations at home of the behavior style that their child should carry when within practice and outside the gym, and all of those factors of being disciplined and perseverant and respectful and humble, but striving. But they also have to be able to hear what the child is saying to them about how they're feeling, and they need to be hearing what the coach is saying, so they can keep the tempo of the child staying on track and going towards their goals. But they need to hear the best advice, and they need to be open to hearing it and receptive of hearing it, and don't take it personally, and don't let it weigh you down, especially if it's something that's a little bit hard to hear. Take it constructively, and take it. We always tell the kids too, when they get their corrections at practice, which are nonstop because that's how you develop yourself. Right. Don't look at it like it's something bad. Just be like, oh, okay, that's the fix. That's the answer.
You know what I think just now? I think
problem.
about when she said the parents, and I said about the parents and set the tempo, but they have to hear the music. Sorry, my English sometimes gets funny. It's like, when you have what you call in English, the guy that has the orchestra.
Conductor?
The conductor, yeah.
The conductor, right? You have a conductor in front of a whole orchestra, right? And the guy goes, right? And the music goes crazy, right? He's the one that gives the tempo of the orchestra, but he has to hear how the music come out, right? Because he can put too much cello here and a little bit bigger bass over there. Then you get the same music with the same notes sound different, right?
Right.
He has to make the music work correctly. Each instrument play correctly to make the music sound the way it is.
Right.
That's, in my opinion, the parent is the conductor.
The conductor.
The conductor,
yeah.
Understand?
That's
because the parents take all the information around the child and make it sound nice.
So you're mutual conductors. You're
Yes.
You're conducting the athlete and the athletes in the gym and controlling the environment so that it helps nurture championship. And then so the parents then have to do the same with home. So they have to think of the home as an environment that they need to create as a nurturing environment, and it's a safe haven for these kids. Right. That and get into that a little bit, because I think that's an important concept.
The parent is the most important piece of that trinity. I'm being honest. Although I'm a coach, right? And I'm the one who teach the child gymnastics. But the parent is the most important piece. Because first of all, the parent has to allow that child to do the sport. And the parent is the one that gives the education to the child. Whatever I tell the child, the parent enforce. The parent is the one who helps me make that child work hard, have discipline. Understand? The parent is the one that brings whatever the coach tells the parent, is the one that brings it to the child. Then the role of the parent is the most important. Like, they have to see it that way, and they have to take it that way, and they have to know that they have the power to mold that child in something very strong and very special.
Right.
But also they have the power to hurt it.
Right. And that happens sometimes unintentionally.
Yes.
in sports because a child will come home frustrated that they struggle to accomplish something, or it's taking them a long time to attain a skill, which is absolutely normal. But while it's happening to you, the tendency is to have very negative self-talk, and children can become self-destructive with this thought that they just can't get something, or someone's learning faster than them, and then they
One second,
start.
keep your idea because I want to say something here. That's why it's very important for the coaches and for the parents to work together to teach that young girl or young boy to compete at a higher level, no matter what sport they do, to want to be the best, but have the opportunity to fail at it. Understand? And give them the positive tools to learn from that fall. How to go back, how to adjust, how to try again and not give up. Give them the chance to fall. That's what has to happen. Because most of the time, I'm going to be honest, I see it with gymnastics and I see it with even dance and other sports that I work with. The parent sometimes is the one that the child goes to a competition and have a bad competition, and then the parent go back to the child. It's like, oh, you see, that girl won. Why you didn't, Like how was for you, for example?
Right. That's exactly what I was going to talk. We're talking about the same, finishing each other's thoughts. So that can happen. And it's very important that the parent be able to listen to the child's feelings and then help positively guide them and help the child develop positive self-talk. It's important for the coach to do that too, but it's very important that when that child goes home and they're confiding in their parent, they first assess where it's coming from, because sometimes that takes an additional conversation. But then they give their child tools to combat that negative self-talk by reminding them that they're proud of them and pointing out what, is
more than gold.
Yes, what they've learned, and pointing out all the positive things that they've attained along the way, and reminding them that they are going to get wherever it is that they want to go as long as they don't give up. It's important to tame their frustration, not inflame their frustration by then doing what Michal said, going home and then pointing out everything that the child did wrong and that other kids did better. And why can't they do that? Because this one didn't fall off the beam, but they did. And like, you could totally destroy your child
without
even realizing it, thinking
because
you're being helpful.
Actually, you try to be like motivating,
right?
And that's why you have to pay attention.
The things that you're talking about now are things that adults learn through living life, or they go to leadership training classes, or they on the job. You learn that you have failures.
After 30 years old,
you have to be a strong person. But what you're doing this with children, 5, 6, 7, 10-year-old girls, and it's amazing that you're putting them through a crash course on what it takes to be a leader and a champion. So I applaud you for all those efforts.
Thank you. I mean, gymnastics in particular, we, of course, both did it, and it's enveloped our entire lives. Mm-hmm. So we know exactly all of those feelings that the child is going to experience. And that is very helpful to know what it feels like. And even if you don't know what it feels like, you have to try to be empathetic and imagine if it were you. Like, think about if you're a parent and you've never did gymnastics, what you'd feel like performing in front of other people and having everybody watch you when you make your biggest mistake that you work so hard not to make.
I'll give you just a small example.
Go ahead.
Picture a 6-year-old, level 2, goes up on the beam, which is like, I don't know how high.
4 feet high.
How high?
4 feet. It's
4
over
feet
their
high.
head.
This wide, right? This wide, right? 4 inches wide, right? And she has 600 to 1,000 people watching her at the same time. And she's up there by herself, and she has to perform her routine. Then she has a judging panel that sits on the side and is watching her.
Right.
I think the biggest guy in that arena, the guy with a big muscle, harsh voice, the man of the man, like tough guy. And I put him on the beam in that moment and I say, let's perform. You know what's going to happen? He's not going to go up. He's going to shake. He's going to be embarrassed. He's going to be scared. Yeah. He's going to feel like, okay, I'm not that tough.
Right.
And he's going to look at that little 6-year-old one and going to be like, admiration,
high
five. Right. You are tough. Those kids are tough. You know how much takes for you to go to do that.
When I
Sure.
think a parent always has to
Besides,
remember
beside
that.
the fear of I fall, understand? And it's funny because you see like gymnastics compared with other sports. Like if you put a 6 years old in soccer and put a soccer ball on the field and say, go run and score, right? If the kid runs and like, it's like, okay, boom, trip on the ball and fell face down on the grass, right? They're going to stand up. Not much happened.
Right.
But guess what?
So
On the beam, it's a different ball game.
Right.
And that 6 years old knows that if she goes steps off the beam, she's going to get hurt.
Wow.
Understand? Then she has to deal with that emotion.
Right.
It's a different level of fear to deal with at a very young age.
You know, I did leadership coaching for a while, and you think the biggest fear of people is dying, the fear of dying. It's not. The biggest fear most people have is the fear of failing in front of a group. That's
Right.
why no one wants to. You couldn't get a CEO to stand on a balance beam to,
Dying is easy,
save
Mark.
his soul, because it's, but so imagine a 6-year-old child doing that. It's just astounding. So,
Dying is easy. When you get to that point, I don't want to take the discussion in a morbid part, but when you get to the point of dying, it's very peaceful.
right.
Like you watch everybody who dies, like when they get to that moment, they are the most peaceful in their life.
Yeah.
Understand? And I think that's the secret of life too. Like we have to learn to have that type of peace before we get to the last second.
Right.
Yes, and
Okay.
that's what this episode is about, not the dying part, the
No,
peaceful part.
the peaceful
You
part.
want to create a peaceful environment for your child while their environment is tumultuous at some points. They are, sailing on a very rough sea, going
Yeah.
through all of these emotions.
And it's important for parents because they can, like I said before, like they can hurt their own child without meaning it.
it.
By doing the best things. Look, Ashley's parents bought her a gym for her to go to the Olympics, but that end up hurting her,
Right.
not helping her.
Like in my situation, my parents, they did buy me a gym, but I did not have the correct coaches for myself, and for many of my teammates. That this is another story, and the environment wasn't good for me to train in. And then I kept getting injured repeatedly, and I got to the point where I knew I needed to stop because it was becoming dangerous for me. And my father looked at me and was like, well, I thought you were going to get a college scholarship out of this. And it hurt me
You see-
so much because I did at that point put so many years and so much effort into my training. And of course, I would have loved to get a college scholarship. I would have loved to go to the Olympics, but I did not have the tools that I needed or the environment that I needed, or one which was safe enough for me to continue doing it. And then for my parent to turn around and then say that, that hurt me. Or I remember one time we were at a competition that was very far travel and I was very injured. I had 4 torn ligaments in my ankle. So I shouldn't have been competing, and I was just going to compete bars because it's just the dismount.
Wow.
And during the acclimation training, same thing. My dad was like, you need to compete all 4 events. We didn't come all the way down here for you to do just one.
Wow.
And that, it hurt me so much. So parents, you have to always remember how much the sport means to your child. It's their thing. So they're always the most emotional one because they're spending all the time and putting all the effort. And they're just really looking at you to be proud of them and be honest with them. Nobody wants to feel, especially in gymnastics, because you are used to taking constructive criticism, and it's very important that you can honestly assess yourself and reevaluate how you did all the time. So no one wants to be sugar coated because that's not going to make the child feel like you're being honest if it's too fluffy all the time. But you need to be there to uplift them and always point out the positive, always point out what they learned, always remind them that you're proud, and always remind them of what you both just discussed, that the pursuit of them even attempting to do it and perform in front of people is just so astounding. And there's so few people in the world that would take that chance, that in itself is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
And the parents have to, like I said, they have to allow their kids to struggle in sports. It's the safer place to struggle
Right.
because you don't want them to struggle when they are 30, right? They go to get a job and then they don't get the job, and then you see them living on the streets because now they are like drug addicts and alcoholic because they cannot cope with the stress of real life.
Right.
You know, where in sports they can get those tools that's going to keep
Right.
them safe in the future. And like I said in the past, sport is not forever.
Mm-hmm.
Understand? Doesn't define their life, and you have to teach them that.
Mhm.
It's fine to fail in sports.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fine. That try
part
to be
of
the
the learning
best, but
process.
Right.
it's fine. Just try again. Don't give up. Have discipline. Understand? That's what parents has to teach their kids, and they have to be okay. Even like, remember we talk about comparing. If you do comparing positively, in a positive way, it's good, and the parents should be allowed, should allow their kids to compare themselves with others, but give them the tools to do it positive, not destructively. They should compare their kids with others. They should sit down and say, look, I watched that girl in competition. She's almost your age. She's very good. Say, do you think we can work a little bit harder and do this and change this? Point your toes on the bar routine. I saw you a little bit. Your toe was not pointed. And I think if you point your toe, you should ask your coach. If you point your toe, you will score higher, right? And you'll do as good as that girl. It's a positive comparison.
Right.
Right. And it teaches the child to admire the other person.
And respect that one, because
rather
now
than
you
be
bring
jealous.
respect than jealousy. Understand? Because that's where the problem is too. Even with the adults, look at adults, look how we are. You see someone who drive a nice car, you look at them, you say, they have a nice car. What they are doing? They are a drug dealer. No. They maybe work 3 jobs or 2 jobs a day to buy that car
Right.
because that was their biggest goal in life, right? To have that car, and they work very hard and
it's
they
a
got
good
the car.
thing. It's a good thing for a child to want to be a gymnastics champion. It's a great thing if they get to be like an Olympic champion, but it's even a better thing if they're a champion at life. I
Yes,
think
Olympic champion in
that's
life.
Right.
the moral of the story.
I told you all the time, it's the champion attitude that makes you successful in life. You learn it through sports, right? Because life is a competition, Mark, isn't it?
Yeah. Right.
You compete against other people on the position of a job that you want. It's same thing like going to the Olympics. You compete for that gold medal with someone else that may be better than you because of different reasons. They work harder. They are more focused. They are naturally more smarter and more athletic than you, which is just how it is. You know, you cannot hate the person because, you know, if I want now, like I look back in gymnastics, like my best friend in Romania, we compete together. Marius Surzic, Olympic champion in 2000 in Sydney. I admire that guy for everything he did. He took my dream away from me. I want to be the first Olympic champion in my country. He became. But I don't hate him. Every time if I talk to my girls in the gym, my coach girls, I talk to them in the gym about gymnastics and I talk about him, I always show them the good things he did. Understand how harder he worked. I always tell the girl story. Like we used to train together in Olympic Junior Center, I think around 1990s, 1991 in Bucharest, in the capital. And they will put us to do 10 pommel horse routine, for example. We both very good at pommel horse, like very good. And I will do 10 routine. This guy will go up on the pommel horse behind my back when I was like moving to the next event and do one more routine. The coach will be like, do 100 VFs. He will do 110. And then by the time he was 18, he was this much ahead of me.
A smidge.
But that this much in competitive world-class level world was up to Mars. Understand? Then can I hate him? No. I know what he did. I learned from that. And now I use that to teach my students. You see, I didn't took it jealousy. No, I look at it, I say I could be that guy, but I was not.
Right.
I work hard, but I was not working as hard as him. I was not lazy. I was not cheating in training. I did my training the way the coach told me. He did 1 repetition more than me.
Mm-hmm.
And that 1 repetition and 1 repetition year after year, he became world champion, European champion, Olympic champion. And everybody else who is successful, that's what they do. If you listen to their story, is always that extra determination and discipline they have compared with the competition.
So if you could wrap all this in one thought for parents, how can the parents be the best parent coach and part of that triangle?
Having no ego, being honest with the child, their own child and their own child abilities, and being honest with the person that coached their child. And I don't know what else you want to add. Because no, I said those three and I'm being honest. I don't want to develop, because if I develop, I'm going to speak another hour.
That's fine.
No, those are pretty much the top three. Being honest is always number one. You have to honestly look at what your child's interested in and their level of interest in that, so that you don't underwhelm or overwhelm them with it. Be honest with how they're doing, with how they're performing, with how they're behaving, how they're focusing, and be honest about their pursuit of the whole goal. Do they really, really want it? Are they partially interested in it? What can they do better? How can you help them? Be honest about the whole thing and listen to the coach and your child with an open mind, and do all you can to uplift the child by taking in the information you receive from them and from the coach. Yeah. That's the best advice.
Let me throw in one of mine after listening to you. I think it's just critically important that the parent recognize the role. That they're not there to have bragging rights to a star. They're not there to get a free ride into college. They're there to nurture this tiny human into being the best person they could be. So if the parents can just recognize the role as part of parenting that maybe they weren't aware of.
Yes.
Look, at the end, I'm going to tell you this, and I tell my parents all the time, but I tell them from the coach side, and I always say, the athlete is the fire, the coach brings the wood. I'm the one who, what's the word in English, the one that puts fire on the buildings?
The arsonist?
The coach is the arsonist. You make that fire a campfire, you know what I mean? It's the same thing for the parent. Your child is the fire in life. Yeah. You're the arsonist. You make that fire big. You bring the wood to the fire.
Okay.
You don't bring the fire to the wood. Understand? Okay. That's the role of the coach, and that's the role of the parent. Make that fire big. Because the kids, they have the fire inside them, right?
Maybe you're the one that ignites it rather than
that's what he means.
Which is more criminal.
Not the arsonist, but you know what I mean? Like, you bring the wood, you bring that fire as big as possible. It's your role to do that.
Right.
And to do that, it's a very fine line between doing like a nice campfire and becoming an arsonist. Right. That's what I was trying to go with.
Yes.
I agree.
Understand?
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to make a fire and control it, a big campfire in the middle of the woods, another thing to burn the whole forest. And the parents, as the coaches, they should want to make a champion out of that child, but not at all cost. Understand? Right. You don't step on the bodies to just make an Olympic champion. You have to be aware of the child
well-being.
Right. That's the most important.
Yes, that is actually the number one most important. Be aware of the child's well-being in every single sense of the word, and do all that you can to protect it by having honest conversations all the time with the child and with the coach. So I think that would be your largest piece of advice. And I think at that point we could wrap it up with that last little piece of advice. That's the best message we could ever give, is everyone should be working together for the well-being of the child.
The coach and the
coach and the parent. So we want to thank you, Mark, again.
Thank you, Mark, and thank
you for helping
everybody.
us. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you for listening to Illuminating Champions. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for our next episode.